Your children will be born in a world of two suns. They will never know a sky without them. You can tell them that you remember when there was a pitch-black sky with no bright star, and people feared the night. You can tell them when we were alone, when we couldn't point to the light and say to ourselves, there's life out there. Someday, the children of the new sun will meet the children of the old. I think they will be our friends. You can tell your children of the day when everyone looked up and realized that we were only tenants of this world. We have been given a new lease and a warning from the landlord.
First time I saw this video, it just reminded me of the Hopi prophecy. In the beginning, you see the blue and red mixture, like the blue Kachina, red Kachina. The way Anthony Kiedis is dancing around, very spiritual. Flea has that Native American clothing on. Just the multiple suns in the sky. Things are upside down. Looks very pole shifty, if you ask me. And I would assume these guys are well aware of Native American lore and occultic knowledge. And we seem to be living in an age where the Hopi were what they were talking about. But in this video, I'm going to show Antarctica, and they caught multiple suns in the sky. Very similar to something I've seen with my own eyes. Here's this lady. Listen to what she says.
And even on this journey, have I ever seen two suns on a live webcam? I have never seen anyone show that either, you all. We're looking at two suns on this live webcam at the Australian Antarctic Division Research Site in Antarctica. This was on Sunday, the 7th of August at 3:05 p.m., you all. Look at what we've got here. Is that not remarkable? You know, you hear people talk about two suns, two suns, two suns. There are two suns in that sky. And if it ain't two suns, then what is beside the one sun? Okay, something is going on. This is not a glare because this is clearly picking up two solid objects in that sky, and they're showing up in black. And again, if you're just tuning in, this is, I've never seen it before, you all. I have not. This is the Australian Antarctic Division. This is the live webcam, the footage that showed up. They update it every day, you all. They do. Look at that. Isn't that remarkable, you all? Let me shrink myself down so we can see it a lot better. We're going to see it. I'm going to make it big, you all. Let's look at this. So I can share the space with them if I want to. I can. I will. Now that's not one, Gina, honey. We can do it, you all. We can do this. Look at that. Let's look at this, you all, because this is ground. This is extremely groundbreaking right there beside my head. I absolutely love it. You know, if that is a planet next to the sun, that planet over here is getting closer. Because this right here literally does look bigger than, one side looks bigger than the other, you all. It does. So isn't, look and see, if you're saying, Gina, what are we supposed to be looking at? That's what you're supposed to be looking at right here beside me, right over there. Two suns. And one appears to be slightly bigger. This is from the Australian Antarctic Division, the research site there.
In the summer of 2016, I was driving west. The sun was setting. It was about 7 o'clock at night. I looked up and I saw one big sun, and right next to the right of the sun as I was driving west was a little sun. It was about a third of the size as the normal sun. Similar to what she was just showing in Antarctica. And what she was showing in Antarctica happened this year. And what I saw was 2016. I'm going to show a channel called Against the Grain, and then right at the end I'm going to show Archaics. Take a look.
So pay attention on this on the 11 o'clock. I will show you that later. Now let's go here, and now pay attention on the upper left corner. There's another object, a reddish object, which is going to, just a moment, I have to go very slowly, frame by frame. Here it is. So this is the object in the upper left corner. Here, away from this, what we just saw on the screen. Okay, now let's go to the graphic program and let's see that in the graphic program. So this is the situation here, and let me show you this a bit zoom in so you will see what kind of the algorithm they are using to cover up this. So as you can see here, we got 90 degrees angle. This is the mask which is covering this object here. As you can see, this is 90 degrees angle. Let me show you just a moment. A line curve, and we will use straight lines, flat, and some white line. Just a moment. And we will go, just a moment, here, like this. This is the one side of this cover-up, and this is another straight line going over that object like this. So maybe, I mean only maybe, it may be that this is in effect more than one object here, which is very difficult for me to see. Let's go to the next slide, and again you will see this cover up here. I will zoom in here, and you will see this as another angle of 90 degrees here. This is the algorithm who is covering this scene. And let's go forward. So this is the object at 11 o'clock position from this object here. And this is, as you can see, it's moving. It's not staying in one place, it's moving now. Now let's go to the, I have to open just a moment the last one that I did, because I found one very interesting object here in the middle of the screen, and I'd like to share this with you. I will blow up this for you, and just a moment. Here. Now, do you see the circle here? This is a reddish object right in the front of the cloud, people. Right in the cloud of this. So I can go, I can make circle around this, and I'm going to show you exactly where this object is. And this is here, people. This is the round object right here. Okay, you see it here? It's a dark red. And this is something when it's illuminated, but as you can see, they put a mask over it. Now let's go to the inverted mode. This is inverted mode. Now you will see the cover up even better, because they are, I will zoom in, and now you will see rectangle they are putting in the front of this. Just a moment to find the mouse. Okay. Oh, here. Oh, come on. I cannot see where is the mouse. Okay, here and here. Okay. I got it. Now, as you can see here, I will put that in the middle of the screen, and I will go a bit with the brightness and contrast, so you will see the complete mask, which is on the, look as a rectangle here. You can see that here, this is a rectangle which are covering the scene. As you can see, here is an object right next to it. This may be a tail of the object, but I'm not sure about this. So let's go to the next slide. And now you can see that this is not the only object here, because here we got one huge object which is here. And that is the size of this object. This, people, is gigantic.
Super construction in the sky. Over a century ago, Charles Fort had already concluded this before World War II. There have been times when the sky holography had suffered a loss of power, and humans were able to look up and see objects that were actually there, and not the illusory sky that we see every day, which is a projection. A superconstruction implies technology, machinery, and this in turn implies programmed routine, subroutines, observatories, protocols, and an unknown power source that maintains this holofield. Living within this deceptive medium, we can only provide evidence of its existence in the measurable phenomena that we have witnessed and recorded and call history. In this video, you will be given proof of such a construct, superconstructions hidden in the sky. These betray the evidence of a constructed reality. No one in the world is conducting research like this because no one has ever measured out the mathematical structuring of events. This structuring is only found in Chronicon. Enjoy this presentation. In the year 1752, on April 15th over Norway, the Europeans looked up into the sky and saw an immense octagonal-shaped star. Balls of fire rained to the ground and something large streaked across the sky. Charles Fort relays this account from older reports in his Book of the Damned in 1919, possibly a French report. An octagonal form of light is not anything naturally seen in the sky. In fact, it must be of sufficient size to be able to determine that it's octagonal at all. That it rained fiery orbs is indicative that it was local in the sky and not far away in space. This was not the first time that the sky holography had suffered a power failure, inducing a collapse of holographic field, allowing people to see what was actually above them in the sky. The octagonal thing appeared in the sky on April 15th, but on April 14th of the year 1561, over Nuremberg, something very similar occurred. See this wood print by Samuel Cocius on 1561, the celestial phenomenon over Nuremberg, at sunrise on April 14, 1561. The citizens of Nuremberg beheld a very frightful spectacle. In the morning of April 14, 1561, at daybreak between 4 and 5 a.m., a dreadful apparition occurred on the sun and then was seen in Nuremberg, in the city, before the gates and in the country, by many men and women. At first there appeared in the middle of the sun two blood-red semicircular arcs, just like the moon in its last quarter. And in the sun, above and below and on both sides, the color was blood. There stood a round ball of partly dull, partly black ferrous color. Likewise, there stood on both sides as a torus about the sun, such blood-red ones and other balls in large number, about 3 in a line and 4 in a square, also some alone. In between these globes there were visible few blood-red crosses, between which there were blood-red strips, becoming thicker in the rear, and in the front malleable, like the rods of reed grass, which were intermingled. Among them 2 big rods, one on the right, one on the left, and within the small and big rods there were also four more globes. These all started to fight amongst themselves, so that the globes, which were first in the sun, flew out at the ones that were standing on the sides. Therefore, the globes standing outside the sun in the small and large rods flew into the sun. Besides, the globes flew back and forth among themselves and fought vehemently with each other for over an hour. And when the conflict in and again out of the sun was most intense, they became fatigued to such an extent that they all, as said above, fell from the sun down upon the earth as if they all burned. They then wasted away on the earth with immense smoke. After all this, there was something like a black spear, very long and thick. Antonio Henao summed it up best that a mass of unfamiliar and large objects passed over the sun as smaller objects fell from the sky to the ground, while a massive black spear-shaped object moved across the sky. 1561 was an interesting year. The infamous Northern prophetess, Mother Shipton, died. She had predicted in her poem the return of the sixth sky dragon, which is the same as the sixth seal of the Revelation, and she dated it a century after a world war, which would be 2040. She said it would quickly return to punish mankind, and I show this as being 2046 in many independent data sets. Strangely, in this year, Nostradamus was 58 years old and working on his centuries, where he predicted world destructive events back to back and even named the Phoenix. Though Mother Shipton died, Sir Francis Bacon was born in this year, editor of the King James Bible in the 1847, on a clear day over Arkansas, suddenly the sky blackened with the appearance of strange clouds with a reddish glow. A huge explosion was heard in the sky. A meteorite fell and burrowed 8 feet into the ground, and within minutes the sky cleared. Is something in the sky trying to mimic the Phoenix phenomenon? The actual Phoenix resets only happen on a fixed 138-year timeline that has remained unchanged for millennia. But is there another mechanism that is following its own design? Whatever the answer, the evidence here is mathematically clear. The Great Black Spear object of 1561 is connected to the octagonal form in the sky of 1752. This mysterious sky object is also connected to the strange phenomena of the year 1833. In 1833, one of the most spectacular meteorite showers in recorded history happened over the United States, and in the Pacific, the island of Tuanaki vanished with all of its inhabitants. Search vessels found not a trace of the island or its inhabitants. There was nothing floating on the ocean. This was 207 years or 2484 months before the year 2040, when the next Phoenix reset will occur. 2484 is 138 times 18, and that terrible number known. It is a remarkable fact that this being the year 2021 Anno Domini, that we have access to records that have remained virtually unchanged for 2,800 years. One of those records is called Hesiod's Theogony. And Hesiod is pretty much on par with Homer. In ancient Greece, the poets, the philosophers, the writers of the tragedies, the dramas, everyone cites Hesiod. The greats long after, centuries and centuries after Hesiod. We have Ovid in Metamorphosis. There's so many great writers from long ago, and we still have their manuscripts today. But Hesiod introduces a very curious element preserved from a far older world. Remember, this is 28 centuries ago. And by his time, before his time, the world had already been compartmentalized into 4 ages. These ages were separated by the Golden Age, the Silver Age, the Bronze, Copper Age, the Iron Age. And very curiously, although in the Greek cosmology, it was considered the 4 ages of the ancient world, in the 4th age, there is actually interjected a 5th period of time, a 5th age that's a part of the 4th age. And while standing alone, this would not be peculiar. We find the same thing in other traditions as well that had no contact with the ancient Greeks that we know of. In the 800 BC, ancient Greece was just emerging from a dark age. This dark age had lasted almost 300 years. It was a very terrible time in the 10th and 11th millennia BC. 10th and 11th century BC. There were Phoenix cataclysms. Matter of fact, there was 2 cataclysms back to back, one caused by Nemesis X object and one caused by Phoenix. I have documented both. But Hesiod began writing, and he is one of the very earliest Greek writers that we have any knowledge of. And we don't even know if he was purely Greek. He may, like the other of the intellectual elite among early Greek society, he may have been Ionian, just like Thales of Miletus, who had predicted a Phoenix cataclysm, or at least a sun darkening. We have this astonishing version of history separated by the great Metal Ages in Hesiod. This was basically universal, is a Mediterranean world belief system. But across the Atlantic, we have the exact same thing. And it seems to be that the ancient American versions of this same compartmentalization division of time, these 4 ages, it's very uncanny. But the ancient American versions have a lot more detail. It's almost as if the American versions were the originals, for which the Greek versions were but copies and renditions. And we'll get into that in this video. 4 ages of the ancient world already had passed by the time of 800 BC. That's really a long time ago. And it may be the reason why so little about what really transpired in the ancient world is known today. The entire world seems to have been dead for about 2.5 to 3 centuries, and it began waking up universally all around the world around 790 to 800 BC. Something terrible had happened. And we know what it was, and I've documented it, and we'll get to that, we'll get more in detail later. But in the ancient American version, we have 4 ages of the world, the 4 suns, each sun born at the same time. Each son born from the same type of event. But the epic that followed afterward was very different. That's why it was a different period of time. It was a different type of civilization, different type of experiences. Also, it was a very different type of world. These sun ages seem to have divided a pre-vapor canopy, and post-vapor canopy world. It's very intriguing. And what's further of significance, this road here is under construction, so it's real rough. Sorry about the background noise. But in the ancient American version, although it describes 4 sun ages, and very popular, all American anthropologists, they know about the 4 suns. But curiously, embedded with that belief system is the coming of the stone of the 5th sun. It's the coming of the 5th sun age. And we'll get to that in this video as well. These four stone ages of the ancient Greeks. These 4 ages of the ancient Americans. And these belief systems are perfectly answered in the Phoenix research. Although I've covered it a little bit, I haven't really gone into detail. By the time Thales of Miletus predicted the darkening of the sun in 585 BC to occur in 2 years in the future, which it did happen in 583 BC, this history was already very old. But long before 800 BC, before Hesiod and before the ancient American versions were collected into written form from older traditions, there was already a belief in the Phoenix cycle, that every 552 years something terrible was going to happen. That's why the mandate of heaven would change, the old world would die, a new age would begin, and each time involved the death of the sun, the darkening of the sun, and the rebirth of the sun. It was the end and beginning of an age. These ages seem to have begun around the same time. The collapse of the vapor canopy, the Great Flood. The ancient American version called it the birth of the water. The first sun was the water sun. It was the birth of the water sun. The sky fell. And since then, the burning sun became the new object of calendrical worship. In the Greek version, it was the golden age, which is also indicative of the golden orb of the sun. Like I said, we'll get into these details in this video. But the 4 great cataclysms of the Phoenix that all precede 800 BC that all precede all of these cataclysms by centuries are well attested. There was a new age begun in 3895 BC when the new heavens and new earth appeared from a cataclysmic pole ship, lithospheric displacement. It was year one of the pre-flood world. It was also the first year of the appearance of the vapor canopy. When the pre-flood world ended, I'm burping pickles and tacos. When the pre-flood world ended, in the American version, we have the collapse of the sky and the appearance of the water sun. It's all very interesting, these four suns. And what's further in significance is that the four Phoenix cycles, four destructions of Phoenix, are also well documented in all my Phoenix videos. We don't have to rehash those, but it seems to be that the past is a predicate for the future. And what happened in ancient times often forms a basis for our eschatological theories. In eschatology, we have the study of ancient things, the study of things of old, and how they have past predicates. The four horsemen of the apocalypse, it is very little known. I have mentioned it in my videos because it's important, it's relative. But in the four horsemen of the apocalypse, we have four horsemen come to usher in a literal reset, a destruction of the world. But the four horsemen are not alone. A careful reading of the passage says when the fourth horseman comes and ushers in what he does, a fifth horseman follows after. It's a very obscure reference in the book of Revelations, but it's there. There's not four horsemen, there's five. You find the very same things in in the Old Testament book of Zechariah concerning the four chariots of prophecy. In the four chariots of prophecy, there's a fifth chariot as well. Another very little known and little explained fifth element to basically a four-part drama unfolding. Either be it the past or be it the future. So Hesiod's theogony and the gold, silver, metal ages of the world, the ancient American versions of the four suns, the Phoenix cycles of the four great destructions of the world by Phoenix, which preceded these ancient systems, man. And it is the origin of these beliefs. The four horsemen with the fifth horseman being the prophetic narrative, like isometric projection, probably a mirrored counterpart of the future of what happened in the past. These are all very interesting. And they were also copied by the ancient Hebrews and interjected into the book of Daniel and other Old Testament passages of prophecy that also talk about the four stages of the world. Nebuchadnezzar's head of gold, the silver breastplate of Persia, the bronze, I can't remember, the arm and thigh gator armor or whatever of Greece, and then the boots and feet and toes, or the boots and feet of iron of Rome, and then the 10 toes of iron mixed with miry clay, which is a reference to basically in the very end of the Roman Empire, 476 AD, Odovacar, the German, the Goths and the Visigoths, the Burgundians, they had basically beat the crap out of Rome and ended the Roman Empire. These are all Israelite descended groups. The old Ionian belief systems from ancient Israel and the Hurrian descended people, they also separated the world into four groups of metals, and these are found in the Hebrew writings of the Old Testament, from which basically it was much of the Old Testament is Jewish redactions of older Israelite stolen materials. But we'll get into that in other videos. I've got a lot of that. A lot of that I'm going to reveal in the near future. But in this video, we're dealing with this ancient belief system and how it was already old, very old, by 800 BC when Hesiod composed his theogony. beginning, according to Aztec mythology, the creator couple gave birth to 4 sons. They were of the east, north, south, and west. After a 600-year period, these sons began to create the universe, including the creation of cosmic time, called the suns. These gods eventually created the world and all other deities. Note, this is very reminiscent of the Anunnaki who were created, and their calendar, the Anunnaki Ner system, was based off 600-year epics. Now, in the Aztec mythology, for 600 years these deities lived in complete idleness. Then the 4 brethren assembled, created the first fire, which is the hearth of the universe, called the sun. And afterward, they created a half-sun. They formed the first man and woman, commanding that the former should till the ground and the latter will spin and weave, while to the woman they gave powers of divination and the grains of maize that she might work cures. They also divided time into days and inaugurated a year of 18 20-day periods, or 360 days. This is reminiscent of all my research in the past, where I show that all the oldest calendrical systems were only 360 days a year. The first sun was inhabited by giants who ate only plants, and it came to an end when the giants were devoured. The world lasted 676 years, or 13 cycles of 52 years. This is also reminiscent of ancient Sumerian Anunnaki history, when the 7 kings of the Anunnaki dynasty right before the flood ruled for 670 years. The second sun, or the wind sun, was governed by Quetzalcoatl, also known as the White Tezcatlipoca. Here, the earth was populated by humans who ate only plants. This world came to an end through a catastrophic series of hurricanes and floods. The few survivors fled to the tops of the trees, and they were transformed into monkeys, according to the tradition. This world also lasted 676 years. Then the third sun, or the rain sun, appeared. It was dominated by water. Its ruling deity was the rain god Tlaloc, and its people ate seeds that grew in the water. This world came to an end when the god Quetzalcoatl made it rain fire and ashes. It lasted only 7 cycles of 52 years, or 364 years. The fourth sun was the water sun. It was governed by a goddess, sister of the wife of Tlaloc. Here, the people ate maize. The great flood marked the end of this world, and all the people were transformed into fish. Like the first and second suns, the fourth sun lasted 676 years. The 676 years is not accurate, but is derived by multiplying the 2 most holiest numbers of the ancient American cosmologies. This is 13 times 52. The Son of Waters was the first age terminated by a deluge in which all creatures perished. Now 2,628 years had passed since the birth of the gods, and in this year it rained so heavily that the heavens themselves fell, while the people of the time were transformed into fish. This 2,628 years is interesting. It puts us in the 46th century BC, and 4639 BC is when we find the first 600 years of the Anunnaki chronology ending, which begins in all my published books and all my videos at 5239 BC. It's the beginning of the 600-year count. Next came the Son of Earth. This was the age of giants, and it ended with a terrific earthquake and the fall of mountains. Then the Son of Air closed with a furious wind, which destroyed buildings and edifices, cities, uprooted trees, and even moved rocks. It was during this period that a great number of monkeys appeared, brought by the wind, and these were regarded as men who were changed into animals. Quetzalcoatl appeared in this third sun, teaching the way of virtue and the arts of life, but his doctrines failed to take root, so he departed toward the east, promising to return another day. With his departure, the Son of Air came to its end, and the Son of Fire began, so called because it was expected that the next destruction of the world would be by fire. These four suns and all the variant traditions attached to them throughout the Mesoamericas, these four suns were in ancient history, just like Hesiod's version of the ages of the world from 800 BC. This was far antedating that period. In the Aztec, Mayan, Quichua, Olmec, Zapotec, Toltec models, these ages were in distant antiquity. We are in the fifth sun, according to their cosmology. It will end with the earthquakes, famines, wars, and confusions, which will bring an end to our present world, a total destruction. This is the subject matter of the stone of the fifth sun, which I have shown has calendar codes that denote the year 2046, which is also the end of the 13 Bactans of the Mayan long count, each one being 144,000 days, for a total of 1,872,000 days that ends in November 2046. The four-age world of antiquity known to the Greeks was transmitted through Hesiod in his text, Works and Days, each age ending in a cataclysm. The age of gold was when humans lived on the land in peace until the disaster occurred. The age of silver was when humans began to work for food and agriculture in hardship and suffering. Zeus decided to destroy mankind because of their bickering, ending the disaster. It was ending with disaster. Sounds very reminiscent of Enlil deciding to destroy the world with a flood because of all the noise. The third age, the age of bronze, was a period of civilization, humans strong, productive, builders very aggressive, erecting cities, temples, and art until wars broke out. This too ended in disaster. However, Hesiod continues the Bronze Age with a second period called the Age of Heroes. And in the Age of Heroes, which is a part of the Age of the Bronze Age, this is when heroes ruled who were hybrids or demigods, half god and half men. It too ended in disaster. The fourth age, which could actually be considered a fifth, is the Age of Iron, when greed and violence, crime and warfare, hatred and deceit ruled. These were the social norms. This is the age of today. So there were really four ages, and this is the fifth age, comparable to the Aztec stone of the fifth sun. These divisions in time also correspond very good with the Phoenix cycles of antiquity. At the end of each Phoenix cycle, the sun died and was seen to be reborn when the sun darkened. Of additional interest, in the ancient Greek four ages, the gold, silver, bronze, and iron, race is the more accurate translation, but Golden Age has become so established in English that both terms should be mentioned. These races or ages are separate creations of the gods. This idea of ages involving the introduction of new races that ended in catastrophes is mirrored also in the Mayan Popol Vuh and the great Yuga ages of ancient Indian tradition. The Krita, the Treta, the Vapara, and the Kali Yuga ages. These all seem to follow after the Sumerian concept of the Anunnaki building different worker species until they produced modern humans. This concludes this video, just to show you that these concepts from the ancient world of an even older period of time that ended in a succession of disasters is very well attested. I don't have to rehash all that. You've already seen this in my other 30 videos on the Phoenix phenomenon. This is Jason of Archaics.com, and on this channel I'm going to take you where no channel has gone before.
His historical knowledge really just blows my mind. He's read so many books, and he's got so many dates and so many mathematical codes in between these dates. It's just... It's almost too much, but his whole Phoenix theory really blows my mind. And he's showing events that have happened throughout the ages. Against the grain, reminded me of looking at Dragon Balls up there, so that's why I put that Dragon Ball Z footage in there. I highly recommend both those channels, Against the Grain and Archaic's channel. There is a lot to be said about both, but they're both talking and showing multiple things in our sky, and I've seen it with my own eyes, like I said before. So thanks for checking this out. I don't know what's above us half the time, but these skies are just amazing every day. Thanks for watching. Take care.
Well, we know where we're going, but we don't know where we've been. And we know what we're knowing, but we can't say what we've seen, and we're not